Welcome in. We are finally back with another edition of Nelly and Nick's Picks and our ranking show for the week. Unfortunately, it's just me for this week. Nelly's been out sick for quite a while now. Whether he's actually sick or not, maybe he's just trying to avoid me. That's something that you'd have to ask him. But in any case, it's just me for today, and I'm going to make a pretty good bet that he's probably asleep right now. So he didn't get his picks in. So we're just going to go over my dunks and dogs. And before we do any of that, we're, of course, going to go over the rankings for the week. So, yeah, no show last week, partly because Nelly was sick, partly because I was just absolutely just dead tired after a conference crossover. That was a fun event, a really fun event, just driving up there to Cedar Rapids from central Iowa and coming back down and sitting around for however many hours. It was fun time, but very exhausting. But yeah, so we're gonna dive right into this. Like I said, just my picks. Didn't get game of the week in there either. We can get a graphic out for that at some point this week. But yeah, we're gonna dive right into the rankings here. For the week. Oopsie, I forgot to take off the thank you. My mistake, guys. It's been a couple weeks since we've done this. So there's the 4A rankings for this week as I pull up my notes for the 4A rankings. And the number, the 1 through 5, everything stays the same. A lot of movement there after that conference crossover Saturday just because of all those ranked 4A teams playing. But everybody sticks. 1 through 5. Muscatine jumps up to number 6. They are 8-0 to start the season. Those Muskies are getting real hot, and they jump 3 spots in our rankings, knocking on the door of the top 5. So, shout out to the Muskies. Got that big win over Bettendorf, it looks like. Yeah, number 14 Bettendorf, at least they were last week. And Johnston goes down a spot underneath Muscatine. Dubuque Senior falls a couple spots, and Linn-Mar sticks at number 8. 10 through 13 stay the same. No movement there. Prairie goes up a couple spots. Bettendorf knocks down. And Ankeny new to the rankings as well for this week. So those are your Class 4A rankings for the 6th week of playing. We will move on to our 3A rankings. 3A, we'll start from the top. Top 2, Ballard and Clear Lake stay the same. I think those guys have been wire to wire. Other than week 1, it's been Ballard and Clear Lake coming all the way down to this week as well. It continues on. Decorah moves up, and Nevada goes down a spot. I was at that Nevada versus Granby Christian game. I'll tell you what. Nevada's a good team, a really good shooting team. They don't have just one player that sticks out. They all just kind of do their job and play really good basketball, and I can see how they're a top 5 team in 3A. Unfortunately for them, Grandview Christian, they were just shooting the lights out, man. Barantes had an incredible game, and Grandview Christian, they just played really well that night. So hats off to them. I still think they're obviously a really talented team, but I think the Thunder are as well, and you got to give respect to them for that. Knoxville goes up to the number 5 spot. They had an impressive win, I believe so. They 75-24 against Eddyville-Blakesburg Fremont last week, and ADM moves down a spot. They lost to Gilbert in a 1-point loss. Gilbert obviously ranked, and that was enough to move them up a spot with lots of moving up. 9 through 14 with Mount Vernon, MOC Floyd Valley, Pella, Cedar Rapids Xavier, Gilbert, and Glenwood all getting a boost up into the rankings, and Des Moines Christian falling down to number 15. Des Moines Christian lost to, who was it? They lost to Van Meter and ACGC, so a couple losses last week to the Lions, but regardless, I still think they're a very good team, and I think they're well-deserving to still be in the rankings. And back into the rankings, Clear Creek Amana, like they never left. let's see, they were in the rankings week 2. Week 2, they were at the number 16 spot. They fell out for a little while, but back into our 3A rankings. So, yeah, that's the 3A rankings for this week, and we will move on to Class 2A. West Burlington, they hold strong in that number 1 spot. Mason Watkins, I'll tell you what, we get a lot of Mason Watkins love in our comments, and rightfully so. I think we've got to make a recognition post for him pretty soon. He has been phenomenal this year. West Burlington has been dominant this year. Kind of a tricky week for them. They've got Meepo coming up, as well as the number 7 ranked Holy Trinity Catholic in Class 1A. So ranked opponent for them. Meepo is going to put up a tough fight as always. And so something to look out for there with West Burlington. Western Christian jumping up to the number 2 spot. West Lyon dropping a spot. Kemper Catholic goes up to number 4, and Monticello drops to number 5. Grandview Christian, I have to say I was a little surprised that they didn't get a boost after a big win against Nevada, but 2A is just so competitive. Lots of movement going on up there at the top. I think Grandview Christian's pretty close to cracking into that top 5. After watching them against Nevada, I think they're one of the best teams in the class. I haven't gotten the chance to go out and see those other teams. I saw that Western Christian is coming to Central Iowa here in the next month or so. So that'll be kind of a teller for myself just to see, somebody that I can actually watch in person and sort of gauge that with what I've already seen. Grundy Center sticks at number 7. Unity Christian and Regina Catholic get a boost up in the rankings. Trainer, Cascade, and Tri-Center all drop down a couple of spots. Applington, Parkersburg, and Albia move up a couple spots. And then Spirit Lake and Hinton, new to the rankings this week. Welcome in, Hinton fans. Notoriously love me. I am a notorious Hinton lover, and I know that Cade, if he's out there watching, he can attest to that. So if you don't know, if you don't watch our football podcast, just take my word for it. I'm a big-time Hinton fan. But in any case, we'll move on to Class 1A. Our 1A rankings, not a ton of movement in the 1A rankings. A lot of it stuck with 1 through 4. Madrid, Marquette, Woodbine, and Northland all stay. Rems and St. Mary's, they leapfrog Bedford up into the number 5 spot. Bedford sticks. Holy Trinity Catholic, they drop down to number 7. They lost to Central Lee last week. Kind of a tough loss for them, but I'll tell you what, they got a pretty big opportunity to prove themselves again against West Burlington this week, like I just mentioned before. That's a huge game for them. Obviously, it's going to be incredibly tough. Mason Watkins, if he's not the best, he's one of the best players in 2A and maybe even the state. So a really tough challenge for the Crusaders, and I think it'll be a teller for their confidence and how well they're going to play for the rest of the season. So something to look out for. Gladbrook-Rhinebeck fans, I'm really sorry for not changing your name there. The number 8 spot is supposed to say Gladbrook-Rhinebeck Rebels. That will be fixed before it goes up on Instagram tomorrow. My apologies. Coon Rapids, Bayard, and Montezuma go up. Montezuma gets a big jump in the rankings. They go from number 16 up to number 10. They had a pretty nice week last week, and I think Montezuma is just one of those teams that they were kind of underrated. Underrated. Not in the rankings before last week. But Brady Bolton and company, man, they are just lighting it up. They beat Kyoto, and now they're getting a big jump in the rankings. Now all of a sudden you're top 10. So Montezuma, our 1A ranker, he's a big fan of Montezuma there. Kyoto, they drop into number 11, 12 through 15, all stay. No movement there. And ACGC pops into our rankings for the first time this season at number 16. So ACGC, they had a close game with Madrid, if I'm not mistaken. I think they played a really competitive game with them. Obviously, ACGC, they came up in the association's rankings, the IHSAA rankings. The first one of the season, those dropped last week. So, yeah, I think ACGC getting some love there is well-deserved. They've started the season off 7-1, and I think this is a really good team. One loss, the number one team in the class isn't that bad if you ask me. So, congratulations to the Chargers there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they stick in the rankings for a while here this season. So, those are our rankings for this week. We still got Dunks and Dogs coming up here in just a moment, but those rankings are going to be up on Instagram, Facebook, and X. You can find those on all those social media platforms tomorrow. I usually try and post them about midday, but we'll see how those go. Now we will move on to everybody's favorite Dunks and Dogs. Let's see. I forgot to throw up our picks from last week both times. But quickly, before we get into our picks from last week, I'll put up my 4A picks here first. But last week, both me and Nelly, we both hit all 4 of our dunks. So we went 4-0. And then we both got our 2A and 3A picks right and then missed our 4A and 1A picks. Right now, Nelly's sitting at 28 points. I'm sitting at 34. And it's been a good year so far of Dunks and Dogs for myself. Definitely a turn from how my Locks and Dogs did for the football season. That's just the way things go, man. What can I say? I know basketball like no other. No lies there. Anyway, 4A picks. Let's get started. My dunk for this week, I'm going Cedar Rapids Prairie and my dog with Ankeny. So, as I get these pulled up here, I'm going to go with Cedar Rapids Prairie on the 14th of January. All right, so where are they? Sorry about this. This is usually when I let Nelly take it away, and I pull this stuff up while he's yapping. All right, Cedar Rapids Prairie, they're playing Dubuque Hempstead. The game I watched with them at Conference Crossover, they played a really talented, fast-paced Ames team, and Ames really kind of took over from start to finish. But I thought Prairie put up a decent fight. I thought their shooting was all right. I thought their defense was pretty good, and I think they can take on this Dubuque Hempstead team. I still think they're really solid. I mean, they did beat Kennedy at home, and I think that was one of Kennedy's first losses at home in multiple years. I think that's what I heard when I was at the crossover. Don't take my full word for that, but Prairie, despite that big loss to Ames, still a really good team who's beating good teams. They beat Kennedy. They beat Liberty, who's been in the 4A rankings before. They beat CCA, who's fresh into the 3A rankings this week. So by any means, this is not a bad team, and I think they can get the win against Dubuque Hempstead this week. So now we're going to talk about my dog, Ankeny. Ankeny, you're playing on the 17th, and that is against Johnston. Now, Johnston, I was very impressed with how Johnston played at the crossover against Kennedy. But, man, Kennedy is good. Like, I was a little worried after that Prairie loss, seeing that. But Kennedy, Trey McCowan, he's the real deal. Kennedy, they are very good. But Johnston, obviously, they were extremely impressive scoring. Tino Day, their top scorer, he had to leave the game early in that one, which is obviously a pretty big factor in that loss. So I think, Tino being able to play the full game is a big factor. But I was also very impressed with Rio Aguirre. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Rio. But this dude can ball. I mean, he was pulling up for three. He was making some great passes. Watching him shoot threes, he was lights out, man. I was really impressed. And I think Ankeny is much better than their record shows. And obviously that is what I'm banking on here with this pick against Johnson. This is going to be a really interesting game to watch. And I think Ankeny, I think they have a better chance than some might give them in this one. So that's what I'm going to bank on here with my 4A pick. So let's move on to Class 3A picks. Decorah and Carroll. Shout out Mr. Cade for this Carroll mention. He is a alum from Carroll, and he is a fan, I suppose you could call him. So I'm going to pull up Decorah real quick. They're playing Spencer this week. I'm talking about the one on the 13th. I think Decorah is just, I think that it could be the number one team in 3A. It's hard to tell with a team like Decorah just because they're so far out there, and so they don't play some of these teams like Ballard and Clear Lake that would be helpful. But they played Cascade, who is a ranked team, and they made some pretty good work with them, 63-51 just last night. Caleb France, it doesn't matter which way you cut it. This guy is the real deal. 32 points per game, 11.9 rebounds per game. This dude, there's no other way to say it. He's one of the best players in 3A, one of the best players in the state. And for that, I give Decorah credit, and I think they can win yet again. 8-0 start, and I think they make it 9-0 against Spencer. And now we're going to talk about Carroll, which is an interesting pick, as Carroll is unranked in our rankings. Let's see who they're playing. Carroll. We have to look it up. There they are. Carroll taking on Gilbert. This is going to be an interesting one. Gilbert obviously ranked, as you guys just saw. I was very impressed. They beat Storm Lake, who is ranked in the top 6 in 3A. They kept it very close with Ballard, who's the number 1 team. And now they're taking on Gilbert, who is a little bit lower ranked in those rankings. But 2-7, and you're keeping up with some of the best teams in the state. I'm very impressed with that. And so I think they catch Gilbert here by surprise. I think they're going to shoot the lights out and play some really good defense. 6-2 historically against Gilbert, according to Bound. So I'm going to take Carroll here and ride the hot hand. A couple losses there, but close losses to really good teams. I think they're going to cash in this time around. So let's move on to the 2A picks. Class 2A, Tri-Center and Kemper Catholic. So we're going to start with my dunk in Tri-Center on the 13th. Tri-Center, shout out to Carter Coonsey. I just saw that he committed to Grandview, I believe. Check out IAfootball for that. Could be definitely wrong, and I'm very sorry if I am, but I'm quite confident. How can you talk about Tri-Center talking about A.J. Harder, somebody that we have posted a lot about in football, and now he's putting up 22 a game as a sophomore for this now ranked Tri-Center team. They take on Riverside on the 13th. Not much to say here. Tri-Center, they've been really good. They lost to Trainer, a ranked team who is, I think one of the better teams and maybe underrated in Class 2A, so I'll give them credit for that. But a 9-1 start to the season, and I think they can pick up a good win here against Riverside. It's interesting to see there. Tri-Center and Riverside, both their top scorers are sophomores. Actually, top 3 for Riverside are all sophomores, so potentially a team that we're looking out for next year if they can put up some better numbers here. 5-5 start for Riverside, but I'm going to take Tri-Center there in that one. They are just a really good squad that I'm going to be betting on to win. So let's move on to my dog, Kemper Catholic. This is going to be, I believe, this is the 2-8 game of the week. Like I said, we're going to put out a graphic for this at some point this week, but there's your little sneak peek. Kemper Catholic, number 4, and that game is on the 18th. So we're going to slide down here, check it out. They're taking on West Lyon. Whew. That's going to be a tough matchup here. Kemper Catholic, I believe, I think it's number 4, number 3 there, Kemper number 4, and West Lyon number 3 in our rankings. There's no other way to say this. I mean, both teams are 10-1. I think this was a football matchup too. I might be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure these two played in football in a close matchup as well. So we're going to see how this one goes. I'm going to take Kemper for this. Ryan Clare is their leading scorer, 16.3 per game. And I mean, looking at it, I mean, both these teams are pretty similar. Kemper's only loss in the last 5 games was a ranked team in Class 4A in Dowling Catholic at the Catholic Classic. West Lyon, I think their one loss this year, I actually don't recall who their one loss was. West Lyon's one loss is to Sioux Center. Oh, that's right. That was a big 1-point upset with Sioux Center. I really like Kemper's chances in this one. I think they're a really solid team. And again, one of those teams that, like I've talked about today, is just a good team. You know, they don't have one guy who's putting up 20, 30 points a game. They play really good ball all around. And I'm going to bet on that against West Lyon for the 2A game of the week. And we're going to cap it off with Class 1A picks. We're going to try and wrap this up. As I'm talking about this, the last time I checked the Packers score, we were getting smoked. The offense was looking terrible. If I come back to that, well, it's going to be a rough night. But we're going to see. Let's move on. Holy Trinity Catholic is my dunk this week, and North Mahaska, my dog. So, we're going to start off with Holy Trinity Catholic. They just dropped down from number 5 down to number 7 in this week's rankings. And this week they take on what? Apparently I have the wrong day for Holy Trinity Catholic, so I'm going to pull that up really quickly. Bear with me here. Like I said, this is usually the time I just let Nelly talk and talk, but he's not here. Hopefully he's tuning in from home. Okay, my dunk this week on the 14th, not the 13th, Holy Trinity Catholic, they're taking on Danville. This is going to be a good sort of rebound game there. After they lost to Central Lee by 3, really tough loss for them. And, you know, they beat Winfield Mount Union by a fair amount. Winfield Mount Union was ranked at some point in our rankings. They're going to take on Danville, and then they have a huge test at home against West Burlington. So I think this is the time for Holy Trinity Catholic to just, I think you got to just get going there, get your offense in a groove, make sure your defense is airtight, because that West Burlington game, by the looks of it, is going to be their biggest game for the rest of the season. So I think they really need to capitalize here on this Danville game to just get some momentum before that big matchup. So something to look out for there. So that's my pick, Holy Trinity Catholic. And then North Mahaska also on the 14th. So I'm going to pull that up really quickly. Okay. North Mahaska, they stuck in our rankings this week, did not move up. There they are. And they take on Keota. So Keota, they lost to Hillcrest Academy by quite a fair amount in their most recent loss. Hillcrest Academy, one of those teams that they've started off the season really well. I think a bit underrated. 11-1 on the season for Hillcrest, but not showing up in our 1A rankings. So we might get some upset Hillcrest people when we post those rankings tomorrow. But they're taking on Keota. North Mahaska, 10-1 start to the season. They've kind of just came out of nowhere in the rankings. They weren't in the rankings for a little while, and then they jumped on up into that lower spot, and now I believe they're in that 13 to 12 range, somewhere around there. Asher DeBoeuf is there. Sorry if I'm saying that. I might be wrong. 16.5 points per game for him, leading the Warhawks. He's also leading them in rebounds and assists. 10 on the rebounds, 4.5 on the assists. So one of their biggest games, certainly the biggest game they've had in their last 5. Looking at their schedule, they got a nice win to start it off against a now number 10 Montezuma team. And that looks like that's been their biggest game of the season so far. But, yeah, that Kyoto game will be their next biggest game, and I think a perfect time to show that, they maybe deserve to be that top 10 team in Class 1A, one of those competitors that people should be looking out for more. So that'll be a good teller for, I think, both of those teams to kind of see if they're in the right spot in those rankings. But, yeah, I'm going to take North Nebraska to beat Kyoto in that one. So that's going to do it. First show without Nelly. Made me sad. I'll be sending this to him to show him that it's not okay that he's sick. He has to stay healthy so that I'm not alone doing this show and talking about stuff that you guys probably don't care about for the most part. But in any case, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We truly do appreciate all the love. We just hit 7,000 followers on Instagram. So obviously very thankful for that. You guys are awesome. Keeping up those comments, keeping me in check when I post incorrect scores, which I've done a handful of times this week already. So hopefully we're going to be improving on that this week. I'll make sure that I fact check myself before I post stuff and get corrected in the comments. Anyway, keep up the love and support, guys. We really do appreciate it. We were reading your comments. We're seeing you guys like and follow our stuff. And, all fun and games here. And, like with these picks, these are all for fun. There's never anything personal against any teams. They're just giving you fun content to watch throughout the week and keep you guys updated on this sort of thing. But, yeah, that's going to do it. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Comment anything, your thoughts, your own dunks and dogs, your own rankings, that sort of thing. We love to see that stuff and what you guys think and getting that personal opinion in there. But, yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Keep up with the socials. We're going to be posting scores and all that good stuff. And I appreciate you for being here.